Surviving. Welcome to Surviving Tourism. This week's episode is with my good friend all the way from Melbourne, Australia. It's Ben Johnson. Welcome, Ben.
Hi, everyone.
Guys, Ben has been a tour guide for 3 years, just like me. His last year was in Europe with me, which we'll talk about in a second, but his first 2 years as a tour guide, while I was having it pretty easy in Canada, well, sometimes easy, this guy was killing it in Asia, but of all places, North Korea. Ben, you gotta tell me a little bit about your time in North Korea.
So it was a pretty cool job. We're based in Beijing and we basically took people into North Korea. I went about 23 times in total.
Love it.
We essentially went to all the ex-communist states, and then also anywhere that was seen as dangerous. So they also used to do tours in Afghanistan, Somaliland, Iraq. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do those ones, but I did get to do lots of Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, and then Siberia and a lot of North Korea.
Crazy. Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, it was good fun.
I love that. Okay, so let's get into it because you are the man that has everything. You speak every language. You've had everything happen to you on tours. No, literally, Ben speaks like every fucking language. It's the most annoying and pretentious thing, but also proud of you. Proud of you. Yeah, I called you here just to shit on you, by the way. This isn't really an interview. No, I'm kidding. You actually have an amazing talent because I speak 4 languages, but I think you speak like 8 or 9 or something, right?
Oh, snippets of some, but yeah, I'd say I'm fluent in 4 as well. And then could get by with another couple.
Yeah, you can definitely swing it with a bunch of them, which is amazing. You've been to North Korea, which is, I can't stress enough, just a foreign concept to 99% of the world, probably. And you've gotten to be a tour guide in 2 different continents, which is something super unique. So you, I know, have a lot of stories. You're also just a wild person, so just take it away.
Okay, there is one story that comes to mind in particular, and this was when we used to do this massive trip from Beijing to Berlin overland, and yeah,
What?
It was this massive
How many days?
In total the whole trip is 70 days or something, but we would do snippets of it. So I did a snippet where I flew to Siberia. I ran a tour in Siberia for a week, and then we met up with some of the other people and we caught the train across to Moscow, and then from Moscow on to Belarus, and then down into the rest of Eastern Europe. And so during one leg of this, we were traveling from Minsk to Kiev on a train overnight.
Okay.
And so Belarus in itself is a very, very weird place. It's basically the North Korea of Europe. Absolutely recommend to go because it's got this crazy...
Is that its official slogan? Because I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Belarus, the official North Korea of Europe.
But it is genuinely so much like it. Their dictator, president, Lukashenko, he's a madman. There's photos of him everywhere. It's a massive offense to say anything bad against him. He had an affair with this mistress, had a baby to this person, and now he dresses him up like a mini-me and takes him around the country, and he's at political rallies dressed the same as him. It's completely fucked up. And he hates gays and everyone, and even during the coronavirus stuff, he actually told his population
Wait, he hates gays and everyone.
Oh, pretty much, yeah. Gays and everyone, that we're
gays
separate.
number 1, but then everybody close second.
And then during the coronavirus stuff, he actually told his people to drink more vodka because it will cure them. And then they ended up having a big outbreak. Just really dumb shit.
Listen, if vodka cured it, the world would be solid right now. If that was a medicine, we'd be done. Coronavirus would have died out 3 weeks ago.
I'd be immune. But we're traveling on this train, and the train was a bit late leaving, and visas, this is very important to the story. A visa for Belarus is very, very strict. It's time, it's date specific. You have to get them beforehand. You can only enter the country without a visa if you fly into the main airport, and you're only allowed to stay for 5 days, and you can't go everywhere in the country. So everyone on this trip had to have a visa. So we're going out of the country. And the border stop happens at like 3 a.m. So we get up off the sleeper train and we're like there, and the guards are coming around checking everyone. And we have these 2 Canadians that are just starting to.
Oh,
like,
fuck you! You're gonna diss Canadians in this story?
No. It's not. No, it's not because they were Canadian that this happened, but they were Canadian, and they just started to like freak out. And I was like, "Oh God, what's happening?" And went over to the border guard, and the border guard is like, "These people, their visa is now out of date," and it turned out because the train left, and we were crossing the border now past midnight.
Oh.
Their visa was it was like,
oh
are you
no,
are you fucking kidding me? So the guide had this look in his eye that was like, I could probably let this go. And then the other guard was like, hey, I've got an American here, his visa is out of date. And as soon as I heard there was an American,
it's
it was
over.
like, oh God, okay, yeah, well, we're not getting out of this. So I had another guide with me. I was like, okay, you take the rest of these people. I'll stay with these people. So he takes us off, and the train border is in the middle of nowhere. There's no road near it. We're in the middle of this forest in southern Belarus, which is probably radioactive because it's very close to the Chernobyl exclusion zone. So we
Where have
get
you
out.
gone in your life, Ben?
Oh, I know. Sometimes when I was in these situations, I was like, what am I doing with my life?
Coronavirus is the least of your worries if you've been near Chernobyl. Like, come on.
Yeah, Chernobyl's actually really fun. So we ended up being put in this little cabin thing where the police were like, okay, we need to do document. And we're like, okay, cool. How long would this take? And they're like, maybe 7 hours. And you're like, cool, I'm not going to argue with these people. But we're essentially on a military base in southern Belarus. So on a military base in a dictatorship. And it was like, all right, guys, don't fuck up. Every time we went to the toilet, we had to be escorted by a guard and stuff.
Serious?
It was really funny. Anyway, so 7 hours later, this was from 3 a.m. So we haven't slept the entire night. We're in this dingy little flimsy setup cabin thing with fluorescent lighting and one tiny heater. What month was it? It was November. So it's pretty cold out that way in November.
Right.
We finally get out and they're like, okay, we have to take you to the land border. And we're like, okay, where is it? They go 40 kilometers away. I'm like, cool. Well, I don't see Uber or anything here. How are we gonna do this? And so these guys were like, we take you wait for car. And we're like, okay. Remember, these people don't speak any English as well, so everything is in broken Russian. Mm-hmm. And so this old Soviet military jeep rocks up with these 2 of the most huge Belarusian soldiers you've ever seen. And they wear these bright blue furry hats. They're amazing. And they get out and they're like, get in. And we're like, okay, cool. So there's 4 of us crammed into the back seat with our bags. And we start driving down this road throughout swampy Belarus. And these guys are flying down this road. Meanwhile, he gets out his shitty old Nokia phone, which seems to have one song on it, which he plays on repeat the whole time. And it was Hadaway's What Is Love. And so we are so sleep deprived. And we're all looking at each other as we're we're going to die in this car. And then it just comes on what is love? And we're looking at each other is this fucking happening? What the hell?
Wait, when you say Nokia phone, by the way, please tell me, because this is what I'm imagining. The one that's used in memes as the unbreakable phone that you never have to recharge.
Yeah,
that one? Oh my god.
Pretty much
I used to have
one
of those. Played Snake on it and everything.
And this wasn't this didn't happen in the 90s. This was 2017, I believe. So it was this is hilarious.
Oh my god.
So we finally get to the land border, and we're like, oh god, okay, cool, great, we made it to Ukraine. You think this is where the story ends? No. This is the setup to how weird it gets even weirder. So we get to the Ukrainian border, they stamp us out, they cancel everyone's visas. So I don't know if I'm allowed back in Belarus or not. We'll find out. Even though I got my visa quite dodgy because I actually saw the guy on Tinder that did my visa in the embassy in Beijing, even though being gay in Belarus is illegal. It was really weird.
Oh my God.
But yeah, he was like, hello, is your name Ben? I was like, yeah, obviously you're seeing my profile on Tinder. And then he was like, my name is in your passport. I was like, oh, Dimitri? And I was like, hilarious.
Did he write his number in your passport? That would have been the smoothest way to, like, instead of sliding into your DMs, slide into your passport.
Yeah, I wish, because he was hella cute. So we get to the border, they do that. And then there's like a no man's land. And at this time, there's still the conflict going on in Ukraine. So there's like this 2-kilometer stretch of nothing. And we're like, okay, how do we get to Ukraine? They're like, you have legs? Like, yeah. They're like, you walk. And I was like, okay, cool. And like, you know, I like nice things. So I'm there with like my wheelie suitcase, scarf like billowing in the wind, and it's starting to snow, and we're just like, oh my fucking God, walking down this stretch of road. We still haven't slept. It's like -1. We're like, okay, let's just walk. We start walking down this road along halfway. The only people on this road are trucks from Ukraine or Belarus taking cargo. And there's all these like dirty old truck drivers like looking at us like, ugh. And so we're getting along, and one of the Americans or the Canadians goes, oh, I'd love a coffee right now. And out of nowhere, this like coffee witch appeared.
No.
So this like old babushka with a shopping trolley and an urn. And she was like, coffee, chai, coffee. And we're like, oh my God, like amazing. Like, wow, maybe there is a God. And so we're walking down, we keep going down, we get to like the halfway point. So now you're in like the no man's land, but it's Ukraine's no man's land thing. And the bushes are moving a little bit, and we're like, what the fuck? And there's like snipers and military people that like appear out of the bushes in like the full suit, like the ghillie suit.
Oh my God.
And they just kind of take off like their face thing and like look at us, and they just like laugh, and they're just like having a bad day, and we're just like, I don't want to talk about it. And so
they're ready to kill like the enemy, and then they see this like these like 4 very sad dudes on a small coffee high just wheeling their shit 2 kilometers from Belarus.
I have a photo of it somewhere of us walking down this road.
Please send it to me.
Oh my God, I'll have to find it somewhere. It was really, really funny.
That's great.
So we keep going down this road, and we finally get to the border of Ukraine, and the lady's like, where did you come from? And we're like, Belarus. And she goes, where do you go? And we're like, Ukraine. And she's like, oh God, I don't have time for this. Snap, just go, fuck off.
Love it.
And so we're like, yes, we got into Ukraine. But now we're at the border. We're in the middle of nowhere. We're still like, 200 kilometers from Kiev. And so we're like, okay, we'll just figure it out how to get there. We had to get Ukrainian money. The ATM is non-existent. The money change place is closed. And so we're like, okay, we're stuck in a country. We only have... The Canadians had some US dollars. And so we're like, oh, fuck it. Okay, this is going to be really hard. We keep walking through the border. There's like trucks, and there's like this van passing, and this random like man appears out of nowhere. He stops, and then he's like, oh, where are you going? We're like, Kiev. He's like, oh, I can take you $10 each. And we're like, oh my God, like this is the best thing that's ever happened. Cool. He's like, wait for me down at this coffee house. And I was like, yep, awesome. We go down to the coffee house, and there's a lovely Ukrainian man, but he won't accept any of our money. And he's like, well, like, where are you guys from? Why don't you have any of our currency or whatever? And we started explaining the story, and then I explained to him, oh, I live in Beijing actually, so I wouldn't have, my own currency on me to change or whatever. And he goes, Beijing? Like, he's so like, oh my God, cool. He's like, my son lives in Beijing. And I was like, okay, cool. He's like, he is famous DJ in Beijing. I was like, I'm listening. He's like, he played concert like 4 weeks ago, and I had gone to a nightclub.
Fuck off.
And actually accidentally seen his son's DJ set, because apparently he was like quite big, and I was like, oh yeah, like, is this the dude or whatever? And he was like, oh my God. So this old Ukrainian man started losing his shit. It went from, you cannot buy anything, to, sit down, my honored guest. Like,
oh my
sit down.
God.
No money needed. And he's like, you get coffee, anything you want. And it was like, just so weird. So we're there for like an hour. The man gets through the border and he opens up the van. And there's like 2 women in there and like 50 plasma screen TVs. We're like, we all look at each other and we're all thinking the same thing. We're like, oh God, are they human trafficking or whatever? But luckily the ladies were like, they were smiling and they were happy and no one was being abused from what we could see. So we're like, you know what, at this point we just really need to get to Kiev. Like, let's just go. And he took us straight to the center of Kiev. And he just drops us. And he's like, thank you, have a great day. We give him the money and we're like, oh my God, we're here. Like, we made it to fucking
Amazing.
Kiev.
You did it.
And, oh, it was so good.
My jaw's
But we
actually
were so
hurting from
tired.
being like just wide this whole time. Just open,
Just-
like jaw has dropped. I can't believe, wait, but just quick question. This is like a tiny little detail in your story, but did you guys actually have a seat in this van, or did you just have to like Tetris yourself with the plasma screen TVs?
So, like, I was in the very front with the babushka and the driver. We were, like, squished together. And then the 2 Canadians and the American were, like, in the back. The Canadians were a couple, so they managed to squeeze together on one seat. The American was actually, like, a really tall guy, so I think he was sitting on the floor, and then I don't know where the women went that were in there. They just kind of, like, disappeared behind the TVs. The van was not big as well. Like,
Oh my God. There's so much happening in that story. That's crazy. I can't believe that happened
really
to you.
funny.
I can't believe you survived it, but I love that.
like, every time in that part of the world, like, if you're crossing the border and there's an American with you, they always were checking the Americans so much more, like, rigidly. And
Yeah.
you're just like, like, I am from Australia/UK. I am innocent. But really, we know that's not the case.
Not at all.
Because we always got it where sometimes people would be like, oh, you're a white person, are you from America? And we'd be like, oh, how dare you?
Oh my God. It reminds me of Mean Girls. Oh, you have a new student from Africa. Welcome. I'm from Michigan.
I'm from Michigan. Yeah.
Love that.
Oh, so
You can't just
good.
ask people why they're white, Karen.
Yeah. God, I love that movie. Oh, dealing with like passports and border stuff is definitely, oh my God, I just hate it so much. We had, oh my God, sorry, the cat's just coming again.
Ben's cat Hermione
we
has
had-
been interrupting this for the past like 30 minutes.
She keeps opening the door. I'm like trying to keep my room, like, actually, just give me 1 sec. I'm just going to kick her out and shut the door because she's... Hermione, get out. No, don't.
Oh, I see her.
Get out.
You're not very good at taming her. She's on the bed.
Oh my God. Oh, this animal. I love her, but God, she frustrates me. Me as a parent.
As a parent. Hey guys, before we get to our next story, I just want to talk about an amazing new company called Sweet Ginger Bakes that's making the most delicious baked goods out of Ottawa right now. It's run by one of my best friends, Jess, who's sweet, a ginger, and can definitely bake. So if you're in or around the Ottawa, Montreal area, be sure to go on Instagram and follow her at @sweetginger.bakes to send your orders in directly to her. Now, let's get back to the show. Surviving tourism.
This is one time when we were going into North Korea. I believe this might have been my first ever tour to North Korea. So this one, it was very much thrown into the deep end. It was during, it's called Day of the Sun. So it's Kim Il-sung's birthday. So Kim Il-sung, for those who don't know about North Korean history, he is like the original founder of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. So I'm never going to say anything bad about him because in case North Koreans do listen to this, I do actually want to go back to North Korea. I love your country. It's a beautiful place.
Look at you just being PC the whole way, like...
If we can make it.
No,
not
I
PC,
don't want you to get
just
kicked out of North
wait.
Korea, okay? I want you back in North Korea with more stories.
It's Kim Il-sung Big Daddy's birthday. I really shouldn't call him Big Daddy, but like whatever, we've already gone there. It's like the biggest thing in the whole country. It is on the, God, they'll kill me if I get this wrong. It is the 15th of April.
Okay.
And so it's just like, it's the biggest celebration in the whole country. It's just after the marathon as well. And the marathon is when you get the most foreigners in. So there's a lot of tours that combine the marathon with that. So it's the one time in North Korea where you have thousands of foreigners in Pyongyang. Not just Chinese tourists, like Canadians, Australians, Russians, Germans, literally whatever. Americans at this time. So this is before they put the travel ban in. And so we go in. Normally our groups were maxed at like 25, but for some reason I had 27. Yay, my first tour. Great, right? So went in, and the celebrations and everything were absolutely fantastic. But then when we went to leave, we were flying out of Pyongyang and meant to be going to... There were so many people, all the flights and trains were all booked because, you know, not many people really go to North Korea, so there's limited transport in and out. So we were getting a charter flight to a city in far northern China called Shenyang, and then going to get a high-speed train to Beijing, and then people can fly away from there. So the whole thing was meant to take like 6 hours. We got to the airport that morning. Flight was delayed for an hour. This normally never happens in Korea. There's like 3 flights a day. These flights were delayed, and we were like, okay, this is quite odd. Like normally it's never delayed. Delayed another hour. And another hour. So at this point, we're supposed to be back in China. People would start be contacting their families to be like, hey, yeah, I had a great trip. But I can't do that. So people on the outside are probably thinking, something's gone wrong. And we don't really have internet access that we can't just, send off a quick message, hey, sorry, my flight's delayed. It was like, okay, there was like one telephone in the airport that could call internationally, which was extremely expensive. I think I spent 50 euros on like a 10-minute phone call or something back to China to tell them, hey, look, this is what's happening.
Wait, sorry, explain to me one thing. How does internet work in North Korea? Because I know in Cuba, for example, the internet's owned by the government, so you have to buy like access cards with like couple of like passwords and usernames, and then it gives you like 1 hour or 2 hour access. How does it work there?
There is and isn't internet in North Korea. They have what's called they have intranet. Okay. So it's its own internet, like internal server. So if you go online, if you're a North Korean, it would be like North Korean version of everything that's there. So it's all state run. Foreigners can actually get access to the actual internet. It's very slow and very expensive. So we could get access to it sometimes, but it's very heavily monitored by the DPRK government and everything like that. So we're waiting in this airport, and this is now getting into like 6 hours where we're in this airport. No one knows what's happening. Every time there's like a dum, 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 everyone's like, oh my God, announcement. And it would say it only in Korean and then very broken English. It was like, 여러분, really and you're just like, okay, I have no idea what that said. And then it would go in English. It'd be like, flight Beijing today. And you're like, well, duh. Like, of course. Like,
I love that.
Wow, which genius wrote this script?
I love bad translations.
They do it in China all the time as well. Like, in Chinese, it'll say, like, next station, the eastern gate of the Forbidden City, which would be, like, something like, Gulou Dongmen. But it will say that in the English one, it will say, next station, Gulou Dongmen. And so you're just like, unless you speak Chinese, you have no idea that that's the east gate of the thing.
I love it. Okay, keep going. So, flight delayed, yep.
So we're still delayed. At this point, everyone at the airport is getting really worried because, they were telling their families they would be out at this point. And if North Korea has a reputation, normally if you're not out of North Korea on time, something has happened, even though it very, very, very rarely does. We're not getting into that. Oh God, such bad memories.
No, we love North Korea. You're not saying anything bad about North Korea.
Love it. Absolutely
Good
love
job.
it. And so our office is like, they contact us to say, hey, we're going to send out a mass email to everyone, to their families, just to be like, hey, listen, your child, friend, partner, pet, or whatever that's in North Korea is fine. they are just delayed at the airport. And so we're delayed another couple hours. Still no word, but we're starting to get word on why we might be delayed.
Yeah.
And it's due to, like, a week earlier, the half-brother of Kim Jong-un was assassinated in Malaysia.
Whoa.
You might have heard about this in the news. It was like this big thing at KL airport. There was like the girls that put like the poison in, and then he had this attack. And
I
so
didn't, but I'm going to Google this right away. Oh my God.
there was a rumor that his body was being transported back to Korea that day. So they had shut down the airspace. And so we had very high North Korean officials asking us, what are you hearing? And we're like, oh God, how do we explain this to them? Because so many people, most of North Korea, like 99% of people, don't know who this guy is, Kim Jong-nam, the half-brother, because the leaders are seen as infallible. And so if there is a half-brother, that means, you know, not so perfect. Another few hours go by. So this point, we're delayed 12 hours at this fucking airport. And there's not a lot at Pyongyang airport. Not a lot at all. There's restaurant. That's about it. And there's like this old weird electronic store that doesn't really make sense. So we finally get on this flight. We get to Shenyang. And in Shenyang, they're like trying to close the airport because, you know, it's late. They're like, oh, we've been waiting for you. And we're like, I'm so sorry. We were delayed in North Korea. Like, after questioning everyone and taking everyone's temperature for some reason, we then have to go to the train station. We've obviously missed our high-speed train, so I now have to battle all these people at this train station, try and buy, like, I think at this point it was like 25 train tickets. So I have 25 passports with me. I'm standing in line, and Chinese people have a reputation for being quite pushy in these things, and so they're all trying to push in front of me because I knew I would be taking longer, and I just fucking lose my shit and like scream at these people in Mandarin, like, be fucking civilized, I'm trying to do this, I have to get on this train, we have like 40 minutes. And so I finally get through, they get on, everyone's like really angry. I'm like, whatever, fuck you, I haven't slept. Like,
But were they impressed to see a white guy pull out some Mandarin out of his ass?
there was one guy, like, this like really pushy, annoying guy tried to push in front. I was like, be civilized. And like this woman next to me, like, kind of like slow clapped a little.
Love that.
And I was like, yeah. And at this point, I'm running on 3 hours sleep. So tired, but like running on adrenaline. We get everyone down. We're like, cool, guys, you got half an hour. Go grab your food. And then meet us right at this exact spot. And so I look to the other guy that I'm with, and then we look upstairs and we see this red beacon with these white letters that say KFC. And we're like, oh my God, so good. I'm so tired. I'm like shaking. So get on the escalator to go up the stairs. And as I get to the top of this escalator, there's a puddle of water, and I slip on the water, and there's like this metal trolley next to it. My leg goes under the trolley and slices into my shin. I still have the scar from it, but I was so delirious at the time that I was like, it's fine, just don't cry. And like it had hit like a nerve, so my vision's going a bit like, I get to the counter, like, I just want some KFC. And we really want to pop, like,
chicken,
we really want
damn
to, specifically popcorn chicken.
Oh, I was about to say, do you get popcorn chicken? That's the only thing I would ever eat at KFC.
We were like craving it, so I get up, I'm like, hello, madam, I would like some popcorn chicken. And she goes, sorry, we've run out.
Oh.
So I have to like compose myself a second time, and I'm thinking, don't cry. And at this point, I'm like, oh, fuck this. I already wanted the popcorn chicken. And I look over and I see Burger King. And there's a bunch of our passengers in the Burger King. I'm like, cool, whatever. I'm going to get Burger King. Finally get, like, the Burger King. I'm like, yes, awesome, great, cool. We get down to the platform. And, of course, do you think when I tell everyone to be there on time, I'm sure this happens to you when you tell people, this is very important. You need to be here at this exact time.
I think that's when they decide, I want to be extra late. Like, in my experience.
I was like, at this point, well, if he misses this, I fucking tried. Not only did I get us out of North Korea through the Chinese customs and then get a gash in my leg, I was so done at this
And you didn't
point.
get your popcorn chicken. I think that's the most important part of that story.
And I didn't get my fucking popcorn chicken. We get onto the platform, and then finally, like, last 5 minutes, I see him running down, and I'm screaming, like, get on the fucking train!
Oh my God.
And so he gets on, and I think, okay, we're just fine. Like, all of our people on the train. We had a few other people that had flown to Beijing. And at the back of my mind, I knew there was one guy that had this issue with his visa. So to combat this, I wrote a letter in Mandarin saying, look, here's the situation. This is what happened to us. Call me and I can explain it better. So we sit down on the train. It's 2 a.m. at this point. And we're like, yeah. And I'm sitting with the other guy, and we look at each other and smile. And just as I start unwrapping my burger, I get a phone call. And it's Beijing Airport Customs. They've got said customer, and they're not letting him in. And I was like,
Oh.
God, are you fucking kidding me? And so I had to buy him a flight with my own card to get him to South Korea, where he could then buy his own flight onwards, and just hope that this guy would pay me back, because, you know, I was a dumb young tour guide.
Oh my
Looking
God.
at it in hindsight, like, I would never buy any of my passengers something like that. I'd be like, no, dude, you fucked up. Buy it yourself. But he couldn't, because he didn't have any of his things. And so that got all sorted out. Finally ate my now cold burger and just looked at my friend and just started crying.
Oh, man. When everything goes wrong at once.
We got back to the office and they were like, you did really well. I was like, thanks.
That's all you get. You did really well.
But yeah, and then we finally made it back to Beijing, and I felt like I was gonna die, and walked into my room and with all the other guides that we lived with, and they were like, hey, I was like, hey, I'm going into my room, don't talk to me for 2 days. And they were like, fair.
Wow, that's round of applause for you handling that super well. Seriously, I'm emotionally exhausted. No, I'm straight up emotionally exhausted listening to that. Although, like, I couldn't stop listening to it because it's like such a Murphy's Law where, like, if something bad can't happen, it will, and it all came crashing down at the end of your first trip into North Korea. And can I just say, I'm surprised you went back 22 times if that was your first experience.
I love it.
You're in way too deep, clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly. So my next question for you is, because we've heard now stories from, you know, your overland, we've heard North Korea. Out of curiosity, because I actually don't know how your season last year went, is there anything memorable that happened on your first year as a tour guide in Europe?
There's definitely like the whole thing was pretty amazing. I have to say, like, going some of the places we do, just so epic, so amazing. I think the funniest interactions are just like how fucking stupid some people are. Like, I swear to God, this one group, and we were at a certain hostel in Florence. I'm sure you know the one with the swimming pool.
Yep, I know it. It's my favorite one, by the way.
They have I fucking love it as well. So they had the cocktail hour. People just started getting absolutely so loose. And you know how I wouldn't say a full dictator on tours, but like I set like a stern thing.
You're
so
bossy.
It's just like, come to me
You're
if you have
bossy.
a serious problem. Yeah, I'm bossy, yeah. But it's like, so it keeps people safe. So they're like, don't do dumb shit. My particular memory of this hostel in Italy, though, was at like 5 a.m. and my phone starts going off. And like, you know, when this happens as a guide, you're like, this is going to be good. And so they're like, Ben, can you please come down to this room? I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, yes, of course. Walk into the room, and there is one girl with her ankle up. One girl is throwing up in the bathroom. And there's a boy in one of the girls' rooms. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. A, B, C, you look the most fucked up with your foot. What happened? I got drunk and I thought I could jump down an entire flight of stairs. You know they're going to be Australian because, of course. And my people, so proud. And she jumped down the entire flight of stairs. So I'm very proud of her. But she also then broke her fucking ankle. So I was like, all right, that seems serious. You, in the bathroom, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, yelling at them when they're like so distraught. What's wrong with you? And she's like, no, I'm fine, I just don't feel well. I'm like, okay, cool, don't care. Why are you in here? And this guy's like, my roommate, he like got drunk and he pissed on me in my sleep, so I feel safer here. I'm like, okay, that sounds quite serious, but for different reasons. I'm gonna ignore that one for now because this girl's in physical pain. And then go over to her, I'm like, all right, you have 10 minutes, pack your shit, get ready, I'm taking you to the hospital. She's like, are hospitals in Italy nice? No, pack your shit. And because of this girl, I missed out on going to Al Antico Vinaio, my favourite panini shop in Florence, and I couldn't get it because I was fucking around between getting everyone else to the tour and getting her back from the hospital.
Aww.
And I was devastated because, the tour is about me, not the passenger, mind you.
That's the secret of being a tour guide that nobody knows until right now. Surviving tourism, everybody listen up. It's not about you. Like, we're doing our trip. You just happen to be there.
And I think the better behaved people are on trips, like, the more they will definitely get from me, because there are so many amazing places and restaurants. But if I have a really shit group of, like, rowdy people, I'm not going to tell them about this bar that's amazing, because they're going to go there and they're going to ruin it. And maybe I want to go there for some peace and tranquility. But if I have, like, a group of people that's, super chill, super into everything, very respectful of the country, then it will be like, hey, like, yeah, check out this place. Or like to individual people, check out this. It's pretty amazing. And they'll 100%. Appreciate it a lot more. Not some like young drunk Australian that's just like, didn't really like it. They didn't have cruises on the menu. All they had was fucking red wine. And you're like, yeah, that's because it was a red wine bar.
No, I'm with you. I've had trips where everybody was just like a sweet baby angel. They like kissed the ground I walked on a little too much, where I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna kiss the ground you walk on now. And then I've had trips where people nitpick everything to the point where I'm like, here's Rome, fuck off, do your thing.
Oh, I've had it before where like I had a couple of girls like fact checking me on Wikipedia with things I was saying, and one of them was like, you said 1947, but it was actually 1946. I'm like, oh, that's great, cool, you're really into looking up stuff. And then one of them came up and she's like, Ben, do you know where this is? I was like, I don't know. Why? What's wrong with your fucking smartphone? Huh? That's not helping you right now, is it? And then she was like, oh, I was like, goodbye, and just like walked off. Oh, I yell. Oh God, sometimes I yell at them too much, but you've got to be strict.
Fact checkers, I've never had one, thank God. But when I hear that shit where like you're off by a year or like a small margin where it doesn't really matter, after all the stuff we have to memorize, like we go into over 20 countries in Europe, how many driving tours do we do, how many walking tours, how many places do we need to know, all these like little backstories, and make it interesting, because there's a lot of people that don't give a fuck about history. They're just there to like enjoy the culture. And then someone's doing that. Honestly, if that happens to me, I'll be like, oh, is that so? Let me see. Check the phone. Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay, cool. So you're the guide now. Here's the mic. And just sit down and be like, just you fucking do it. I have actually done that to because
I've definitely done that to people.
Yeah, you're not like gonna know everything about everything. You know a little bit about everything, and if you're off by a little bit, you go like, oh, sorry guys, like human error. For fuck's sake. The worst thing
you can get asked as a guide is, are you sure? Like, that line, like, especially if you're doing a walking tour, I had it once, like, this girl was like, are you sure? I was like, oh, I don't know if I am. Would you like to run the tour? And she was like, no. It was like, that's what I fucking thought. Like,
yeah. You want to know what my trick is? So whenever, I do this for places I also know shit too, but whenever I really don't know shit about a place, I'll just make a blatant lie, and then they either know it's a lie or they don't. I don't say anything for a while. I only tell them later that I was like fucking kidding. I just love the stuff that I make up. Like, I don't know if you were on my bus on training trip. We were doing the Paris loop. And we were going
one of many loops.
Yeah, oh my God. So many loops, so many buses. I don't know if you were on this one, but I love making up this lie. It's like the stupidest thing, but you have to like really sell it, right? And we have to talk about Opera Garnier. And when you're on training trip, you can't stop talking, right? So I've now said all my facts about Opera Garnier. Everybody has said it during the other 3,000 loops. And this building is just like an old opera house, and now it does other shit, and like, who cares at this point? So I'm like, I'm just gonna make up a lie to fill up time. It's much more entertaining. So there's these like statues around Opera Garnier do you know the statues? It's like these sexy women, like they're topless.
La Danse. Yeah, it's the really like the one that they hated, and it's a replica, that one on the right hand side, right at the very front.
No, it's all over with the lamps.
Oh, the ones with the nipples.
Yes, exactly. So it's a
Yeah,
statue
yeah.
of a woman with like a robe, but the robe doesn't cover her breasts, and so her breasts are exposed.
Yeah.
So it's topless women. I don't know how many there are, like 30 around the building, and there's lamps on top. It looks like they're holding lamps. It's literally just a really sexy lamp at this point.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, don't hold me accountable, but I think the story behind it is that they were like financed by a bunch of families that like rich families that wanted to finance the opera house, and then they each got like a lamp. But I don't actually know, because I just decided to make up a much more interesting story and see who would buy it. And like, you know this. The Paris driving tour is the first thing you do. So people believe everything guides say.
It's so good.
Literally everything. And right off the bat, I just decide to ruin their trust because I love my job. So I go and do the loops in Paris, and the first building is Opera Garnier. So I start off the trip with a lie, because that's how you should do it, in my opinion. And I go and I talk about the opera house, and then when we're doing the loop, I'm like, and see these beautiful, sexy women? These are the women that saved the economy of France. Back in the 1500s, France was in the dumps. There was no money coming in, there was no money going out. And these women were hired, these models, to sell lamps in France, because the lamp making industry was the only industry producing revenue. And so they thought, if we make women topless and we get them in markets to just hold these lamps in sexy ways, then we'll revive the economy. And believe it or not, this worked, guys. Okay, so when in doubt, just take your top off. You'll make tons of money. All these lamps represent the sexy women of the lamp making industry of the 1500s in France that made France what it is today. And people are like, wow, what a great, info right off the bat. Who would have thought it? It would have been just a lamp. And then you just get like one person on the back that's like, that's a bloody lie.
Yeah, they're always
So even
Australian.
Australian, like, that's a bloody lie. And I'm like,
That's
yeah,
a
guys, I'm
lie.
fucking with you. Like, who believed me? And everyone's like, oh, come on, Paula.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
it. I love messing with passengers. Like, it's so much fun.
My biggest thing on tours is music. Like, every single time I cross a border, I've got like a playlist, and I have a rule that every time you enter France, I have to play the French national anthem at full blast. And there was one tour I did where, because of the driving route, we entered France 1, 2, 3, 4 times or something. Mm-hmm. And these people were like, by the 4th time, they're like, see the sign of like the European Union stars, and it just says France. And they're like, no. And as soon as we cross it, it's and they're like fast asleep and hear this, and I'm like, sorry, it's a rule. And they're like, no. But then they love it when we go to like Italy and you play like oh god, That's Amore and La Donne Mobile, the one from the pasta ads.
Yeah.
As you're driving past Lake Como and you're like, so beautiful, so perfect.
yeah.
Like, just makes it.
They also love Bella Ciao now because of Money
Yeah,
Heist.
Bella Ciao,
Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Ciao, Ciao. Yeah.
It's so good.
I think we did a lot today. I think we talked about a lot, and your stories were epic. So thank you so much, Ben, for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me on.
Seriously, and good luck. I know today, I think you're looking at rental properties, right? You're looking for to move out. You're not down to live with mom anymore? No. Hermione, the cat, just is too much.
Love them, but yeah.
Gotcha.
It's time.
Well, anyways, thanks for being here. Good luck with the rental property.
Thank you.
You know what? Maybe once coronavirus settles, we'll have more stories and you'll come back to the podcast.
Oh, for sure. Thank you so much for having me on, Paula.
Surviving to